If you want to have every new patient who comes into your chiropractic office to follow all of your recommendations every time, then you need to have patience with your patients. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Dr. Scott on a beautiful sunny Wednesday morning here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Today we're talking about patience with your patients. What I've found and what I mentioned last week on the Perfect Case Acceptance Show last Wednesday is that weak systems in your practice, staff that doesn't follow up on patients, when you know that if that patient walks out the door, they're not coming back, it puts a lot of pressure on the case development process. And then doctors start to strong-arm patients. And I'm here to tell you that that's the wrong way to go. So we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. First and foremost, question of the day. I always forget which way it is. Have you tried any new recipes while quarantined? Anything you've done differently? Tried something new during this quarantine? Hopefully we're all learning new skills and doing stuff while we're slowed down. But any recipes? If you have, put them in the comments down below. To be quite honest with you, I came up with this question, but I have not. We have been very, very basic during the quarantine and just loving it. We're pretty basic most of the week anyway. You probably know me even just from doing this show. Every Wednesday we do Perfect Case Acceptance. Every Thursday we do Referral Mastery. We're the same way with food around my house. Today's Wednesday. It's Wing Wednesday. We're going to have smoked chicken wings tonight. Last night was Taco Tuesday. Meat Monday the night before. So we're pretty straight on, and we have not even bothered looking for new recipes. We're staying pretty to our normals. But I want to know if you have any recipes. Again, put them in the comments down below. All right. I want to get right to it today because we got a kind of a long show. As I mentioned, those weak systems put pressure on a doctor. And what I've found is that every doctor has a range of patients that they are good with, a range of patients that they can develop, a range of patients that they're able to get a comprehensive case out of. And that's not always a good thing. From what I've observed, it's all about that range of patients that you can bring to full case development. Most practices are very, very narrow. And what I mean by range is the difficulty that you face developing certain types of patients. So we've found that there's 6 different types of patients in 2 different broad categories. And this is relative to the difficulty a doctor has to get them to accept that comprehensive care that we're looking for here, right? So the 2 different broad categories are pain-driven patients and concern-driven patients. And we like to think of the concern-driven patients as more responsible or more mature. They might be the ones that would schedule an exam or check up just for preventative reasons alone. Not enough of them out there. But under each of these 2 categories, pain-driven and concern-driven, we also have 3 different subcategories. And those 3 different subcategories are a walk-in patient, a referral patient, or walk-in or advertising patient, I'll say, a referral patient, or a past patient. So we have pain-driven walk-in patient or advertising, pain-driven referral, or pain-driven past patient. And then we have concern-driven walk-in or advertising, concern-driven referral, or concern-driven past patient. And these are in order that I just gave them of the scale of difficulty, if you will. Pain-driven advertising or walk-in patient being the most difficult to present a comprehensive care to. And some doctors can do okay with the last 2. If you get a strong referral patient who's concern driven, or you get a past patient to come back to you who's concern driven, a lot of doctors can do very, very well with those and are very happy with their systems in that case. However, you give them any of the other 4 different types of patients, and they either try to change their systems or they fumble the ball in those situations, then they're not able to get them to again, get that comprehensive care that we're looking for. So a lot of doctors will talk about these as good patients versus bad patients. I've even heard doctors talk about these pain-driven walk-in or advertising patients as junk patients. Have you ever heard that terminology? A lot of doctors complain about these advertising patients from the advertising that they're doing, which doesn't really make a whole bunch of sense to me. And they keep doing that advertising, even though they get what they call junk patients. So one thing I know for sure is that there are no bad patients. There are only weak practice systems. So if you have weak practicisms, you're the type of doctor that's going to call people junk patients. There are no junk patients. We can do, if we increase our range with those types of patients, we can do just fine. Obviously, everybody can do okay with a rich, heavily insured patient who was referred by a very good friend of theirs with a very strong referral. But making something happen with someone who just clipped your coupon out of the Penny Saver ad, I think I just dated myself there. Do Penny Savers even still exist? Let's go ahead and say Groupons. Getting something to happen with those people is different. So that's what we're going for here. We don't just want perfect case acceptance. We want perfect case acceptance from people who you used to call junk patients. That's our goal here. So whenever I say that to somebody, a doctor says, well, what do I say or what do I do? I need to be very, very clear here. That's not about what you say or do in this situation. In fact, case presentation is not where the case is won at all. In fact, case presentation, if we're not careful, is exactly where the case can be lost. All right? Perfect case acceptance is the result of a process, not an event. It's not the result of your case presentation. It's your whole practice, how you practice. So it is part of that entire process. We're working on your case presentation here, but again, it's not about you winning the case here. It's not about you doing some big dog and pony show that convinces a patient to come along for this ride. But it is where you can push too hard or be too weak, like we talked about last week, and lose the case altogether. One thing I need you all to understand is that every patient is on their own patient development path. And we've got to honor that. And we've also got to realize that not everything on that patient development path takes place in our office. Some patients are stuck at one point or another, but all are headed to a realization. And we need to realize that all patients are headed towards a realization that emergency care is not what's best for them. It's not in their best interest. Our job in this process is not to alienate them along the way. Our job is to make ourselves their doctor until they realize that comprehensive care is in their best interest. And that we don't come across as being the one that's forcing them that direction. We're there to offer it to them when they're ready to accept it. You've heard a lot of it in chiropractic circles for a long way. We don't want those junk patients, those pain-driven patients. But pain, we need to see pain for what it really is. Pain works for us. The patient's pain works for us to teach them lessons that they're not ready to hear from us. So if we're not patient with them and we push them, then they still have that pain. They're going to go somewhere else. So our problem is our own patience, our own tolerance with other people, our own tolerance with where they are on the healthcare continuum. When we realize that our patients are on a trajectory, they're on a path, we can just relax. We can just do our part. No more, no less. And our part is to move them one step along the healthcare continuum. So if they come in pain-driven and we want them to be, completely health conscious, we can't move them all the way at one time. But if we move them one step along the way, we don't alienate them, we become their doctor, sooner or later we will get them all the way over to healthcare consciousness. If we deal with them at their level of healthcare consciousness and we're patient, they'll hang around long enough to get perfect case acceptance, and you will get them all to do everything that you've wanted them to do. Now, there are things that you can do to speed along this process, and I'm going to share them with you on these Wednesday morning shows. There's something we call phantom pressure, where you can give pressure on them, but it doesn't appear to be coming from you. It appears to be coming from themselves, and that helps to speed along the process, and we'll get there. Take your time. Be patient here. But if we deal with them at their level of health consciousness, and again, we don't alienate them, we're going to be much better off. If you scare them away at this point, if you push, we talked about overcoming objections a couple weeks ago. If you push and you scare them away, they're going to go back to the pain basement. They're going to deal with some more pain. They're going to learn some more lessons that pain teaches them, but not from us. And then they're going to go to another chiropractor, and they're going to get sold what you told them to buy in the first place. And that's not what we want. We want to keep them around, hang around long enough that we can move them along that continuum. So you are going to have to be patient. But I will show you how to speed up the process. And a big part of speeding up the process is dealing with their automatic responses. So we're going to start using something that I want to introduce to you right now, which is the 6 Weapons of Influence from Dr. Robert Cialdini's book, Influence the Art of Persuasion. Normally at this point when I'm talking about it, I would hold up the book, but it was in my garage, the old headquarters, which burned to the ground, meaning I lost one of my favorite books. I lost all of my books. All of my entire library got burned up in that fire. So I do not have the 6 Weapons of Influence book anymore. Again, the book is called Influence the Art of Persuasion. I've recommended it to everybody who's read it. It's a little bit of a tough read. It's pretty scientific, but it's a good book. So I want to introduce those to you here because it's something we're going to use to deal with patients' automatic behavior, to put on that phantom pressure that I just mentioned a minute ago. So one of the 6 weapons of influence, probably the easiest to understand, is what we call scarcity, right? This is something that makes you want to buy something that you didn't even know was for sale. So you might be walking through somewhere and not even be in the mood to buy something, but if you see a bunch of well-dressed, intelligent-looking people scattered around a rack, all clamoring to get something, like just recently here with the whole coronavirus scare, it makes you want to buy that thing, right? That's the scarcity. If there's not enough of it and other people want it, it seems to make you want it. So we're going to be dealing with these 6 weapons of influence. So again, I want to introduce them here to you today so that as we go through Perfect Case Acceptance over the next multiple Wednesdays, you'll kind of know what this is coming back to. So the first weapon of influence is reciprocation. When you give somebody something, they tend to want to give you something back. So we can use that to our advantage as well. As long as you don't use it for evil, use it for good. Reciprocation. Number 2 is authority. We tend to want to do what people in authority tell us to do, which is being seen right now, right, in the whole coronavirus scare. And different factions talking about how that's good or bad. I'm not going to get into it. Number 3 is liking. We tend to do things for people that we like. You know, the little Girl Scout, this is the season, knocks on your door, or we just missed it, I guess, and tries to sell you cookies. You like that little girl. She's cute. Even though you don't like the cookies, you might like them enough to buy the cookies from them, and then you think about people you like who do like the cookies, so you buy them the cookies. But likability, liking is another one of the weapons of influence. The 4th weapon of influence is social proof. We tend to want to do what we see other people doing. If other people are doing it, we want to do it as well. And that's the social proof thing. So that's why testimonials are so important in marketing. The 5th one is scarcity, which I already talked about. If there's not enough of it and we want it, then we tend to want to buy it more. And that comes along with validity, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. When you're so valid that people feel like they're lucky to be in your office, that's scarcity. And number 6, is commitment and consistency. When we agree to do something, we tend to follow up most times. So if we use that in our case development process, we get patients to commit and be consistent, they will tend to be more committed and more consistent as time goes on. So those are the 6 weapons of influence we're going to use while being patient. Use those to our advantage to get patients to move along that patient continuum, that healthcare continuum that I talked about, from a pain-driven patient to a concern-driven, health-conscious patient. Again, we have to be patient with the process because it is a process. But by using the 6 weapons of influence, we can speed up the process a little bit as long as we don't ever push too hard to scare them away to do something else. All right. I'm very excited about this Perfect Case Acceptance process. We've actually been putting together a little ebook/video series for this. If you'd be interested in that, put yes in the comments down below. Actually, put yes with an exclamation point. It doesn't count unless there's an exclamation point. So if you'd be interested in an ebook or something to follow around that kind of takes you through the whole Perfect Case Acceptance process, put yes exclamation point in the comments down below, and I will make sure that when it's available, we get that to you. Let's see here. What we got going on tomorrow? Tomorrow we've got more referral mastery. So we're going to be talking about consumerism versus practicism. Again, 2 words that I just made up. But we're going to talk about how putting the practice towards what the patient wants versus what you want is most important in getting that referral mastery together. I see Casey is saying yes. If you also would like that Perfect Case Acceptance system. Zach also saying yes. Exclamation point. Make sure the exclamation point is in there. I will see you all tomorrow morning. It's 8 a.m. Central Daylight Time.